and it'll
What is up, Ham Radio? Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zoo November, the Ham Radio Adventure Guy. Thanks for stopping by. Your one stop for everything Adventure Radio and a little bit of happy hour, Hump Day Happy that it is. Good evening, everybody. Before we get started, we're going to do it like we always do. Unfortunately, I'm not on cue to do it. There we go. We're going to thank the Patreons, including our newest Patreon, Miss Sidewalk Sherry. Welcome to Patreon. Also, a big shout out to the YouTube members, even though you guys are scared to be rovers. And then the ever changing board, Kilo Oscar 4 Fart Sniffing Zebra moves to the top 5. James Jenner moved up a spot, and everybody else shifted around a little bit, but looking good, guys. Appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm excited. You know, we've had Scott on here before to talk about his awesome car. And if you have not seen Scott's car or the videos that has been out about his car, you need to either go back and check them out or go check out his YouTube. That's what I would probably do if I was you, because he's got way more detailed stuff than we've got on him. But Scott, we'll welcome you back to the show. But before we do, Dan's going to welcome everybody in the chat in here. Go for it, Dan.
I got to say, Scott, first, welcome back. And every time I talk to you, it seems like I just want to spend more money for some reason. It's a weird thing. Hello, happy Hump Day Wednesday. Hopefully everybody's having a great week so far. Whiskey 1, Whiskey Charlie. Our buddy Brian was first in the chat. Kilo 9 Alpha Echo. What's going on, buddy? Kent. Toby Alpha Delta 2 Charlie Delta. Kilo 8 Golf Quebec. Georgia Parks and Propagation. Ron Chris is in the house. Alpha Echo 4 X-Ray Oscar. Kilo Oscar 4 Fart Sniffing Zebras. What is going on, buddy? Andy Cowley, always good to see you. Kilo 4 Lima Indier is in the house. Yeah, buddy Josh, what's going on? If any of y'all missed that, that was actually pretty good. Ronnie, Kilo Oscar 4 Zulu. Romeo X-Ray. What is going on? Kilo Echo 4 Eastern Standard Time. Hello, Mike 88 KB Whiskey 1 Radio Charlie Papa Mickey Mouse. No, you're not late, buddy. November 4 Charlie Whiskey Bravo is in the house. Good to hear you. As always, let's see who else we got here. Kilo 8 Golf Quebec again. Terry, congratulations. Didn't tell you congratulations the first time. Victor Echo 3 X-Ray November Sierra Stroke Tango Bravo. Howdy, Mr. Truffle Butter. Kilo 4 Alpha. How you doing? Whiskey 8 Echo Romeo Liz and fam. Welcome. Stephen Walker, my boo. Kilo Delta 9 Uniform Delta Victor. Scott N2 TKT. What is going on? Mike Robersh, the PP man, is here. And Chris NS8Q. Good evening from cold and blustery Michigan. Whiskey 0 Charlie Golf Charlie. Rod K4 DSX 45 Auto. And I think that's about it. We got a house full. Scott, welcome back.
Thank you.
That almost sounds like one of my pileups you're running there, Dan. Good job, buddy.
And I got it all done in 35 seconds, and now I am QRT.
and you even congratulated Terry. Congratulations one more time, Terry.
That's right.
And we appreciate you, and we'll leave that at that. Scott, how you been, buddy?
I've been good. Been off air for a little bit. I had a voice issue, some damage in the voice box there, but I'm pretty much back. But have not been motivated to go out and sit out on the Colonial Parkway or do some POTA, but I'll get out there again here soon enough.
Well, there's a cure for that voice issue. It's called CW, man.
Yes.
PSK.
Or you could make PSK 31 great again. There went my background.
There went your background. Yeah, I've been thinking about trying some RIDI. We call it RIDI, right? Where I'm used to in the military, we call it RAT. But I've been curious about some RIDI, or I can't remember the another one, Olivia. Just kind of, I have the digital connection figured out on my radio, so I can do it. I just got to get the software and learn how to use it.
Yeah, because I've told everybody forever that FT8 bores me, and I was like, I want to learn to do PSK 31. Oh, that's too old. Nobody uses that anymore, and this, that, and the other. And people's been saying that forever. Well, I finally started using it in POTA, and I'm telling you, it's going to catch on. And I just happened to notice it today that somebody posted in the POTA Facebook. He's like, I've been averaging about one PSK 31 activation contact a week now. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, it's catching. Let's just keep it up, guys.
Something tells me, though, that if you start activating on PSK and stop activating in other modes, there'll be enough people here that say, I'm going to figure that out and go make a QSO with them.
Oh, no, this is the funny thing. So I talked about it for months that I was going to learn it. I mean, months. The first day that I spotted on PSK 31, I was sitting there watching my Discord, and they were going frantic trying to figure out how to load everything up. And they were just in sheer panic mode, besides the couple that had helped me get my setup going the night before. Mm-hmm. They were just freaking out trying to get in there.
I like it. It's a great mode. It's more personal. You can actually type messages back and forth,
Yeah, that's what FT8 can be kind of boring, but sometimes that's just the way to make the contact. And I was doing some FT8 when I couldn't speak. And so, I was making contacts and still doing park activations, but like you said, it's not nearly as personal.
Right.
Brent, welcome. November 4 Bravo Delta Whiskey. Good to see you, buddy.
All right, but we did bring Scott on because this is Everything Adventure Radio, and we all know that because my car is still in the shop with no ETA. The rent-a-car has to be back by the 25th, and they still don't even have an ETA on the grill getting there. But the bike road got pushed off to next year because I don't know when I'm going to get my car to get a car that has a bike rack on it to get it out there. But so I'm going to make next year a big bike radio year. And Scott's done some bike radio. He's run some support for some races and all kinds of stuff. So he's going to come on and talk a little bit about biking and radio and stuff. So take it away, Scott.
All right. Well, when the last time I was on your show, I know that I'm sure that I shared that I've always been mobile and mobile only. But what I don't remember is if I told you that I started as a bicycle mobile operator. Did I tell you that?
I don't remember you telling us that.
I have not heard this story.
Well, yeah. So I used to race as a licensed racer and commuted to work 12 miles each way year round. And it was like in, say, the winter, January of 1995, I got walking pneumonia, and it took me off the bike for a little while. And I had also coincidentally stopped racing in 1994. So I wasn't going to race anymore. And so I decided to go ahead and start studying for my technician exam. And then I got licensed while I was still with the pneumonia. And then I started talking on the radio. Everybody starts off with an HT, it seems. So I had an HT in my car and talking to a local repeater group. And I got to know them. And then once I got healthy enough to get back on the bike and start commuting by bike again, I didn't want to give up the connection that I had with that club. So I put everything on a bike and then became known as the bicycle mobile guy. So that was what I did probably for the first 18 months that I was licensed until I transferred out of the area. And then things changed for me a little bit. But yeah, bicycle mobile is pretty much where I guess I sort of started in my car with an HT, but I kind of don't count it because it was just a mag mount and an HT in my hand. But the bicycle was my first permanent or deliberate install.
Do you ever look back on that? Be it, back in what do you say, mid-90s?
Yeah, 1995. Yeah, was when I got
Yes.
licensed.
That was about when I got licensed too. Do you ever look back on the bicycle times versus where you are now with the car mobile setup and wonder, what have I done? Why am I this insane?
But you know what? Up until 2021, my car mobile. I mean, I guess I had an HF rig in it, so I had a dual bander and an HF rig in the car, but I didn't really go overboard with the car until 2021 when I got kind of steeped into VHF contesting a little bit, or I finally decided that I had the time for it. And so, yeah, that was when I kind of went nutty with it. Before that, I was always hiding everything, one antenna on the car at a time, maybe two if I've got the Scorpion plugged into the back. But now what I have going on is just nuts. And that would have never crossed my mind 20 years ago. Or even 5 years ago, I don't think it would have crossed my mind.
It's probably a good thing because I've seen your car and I couldn't imagine you toting that stuff on a bicycle very good.
No, in fact, my question for you is: do you want to do HF on your bike? I'm assuming you're going to want to do some POTA activations.
Yes,
so what I'm going to be showing you here tonight is all VHF UHF. I've never done HF on the bike. I mean, I have ideas and thoughts on what will work, but I haven't done it myself. HF, and that would be strictly in the mobile sense. And when I say what I mean when I say that is, I've seen a thread in Facebook. I think they call it Bikes on the Air, and in their rule set, if the radio or the antenna is on the bicycle, then it is a Bikes on the Air. I'll call it an event because I don't know that it's focused on POTA or not. But in my mind, with the rules that I've been exposed to, that's not truly mobile. Sure, it fits in the parameters that they're presenting, but in order for it to be a mobile setup, you have to be able to operate it while in motion. And so some bicycle mobile setups with HF, I've seen them drag radials behind the bike. It gets a little crazy sometimes. And then sometimes just a big hamstick on the bike. And so they operate while they're in motion, but oftentimes what they'll do is they'll just stop. They're more of a portable setup. So if you can't do it while you're moving, then it's portable. And I'm cool with that too. But that's what I think a lot of bicycle stations are, is they're portable setups. They ride to a location, get the antenna out, and then operate.
Yeah, yeah. I think for this circumstance, that might make more sense for James, but he can chime in, more of a portable type rather than a true mobile. You know.
Well, yeah, especially since we're doing POTA, you're looking to log, and gosh, I think the logging while driving is insane enough. If you're on a bicycle, no way.
Yeah.
Unless you're just videoing yourself and you're dictating what you're going to log later.
Well, so I've already did some bicycle activations, not mobile, while I'm riding. Like just load the stuff up on the bicycle and go. I've did a bicycle rove even, and where I just take the bike out, got all my gear on it, and get to the location, then set up like that right there. And a lot of my bicycle radio will definitely be like that right there. Just I've got like a couple of the Rock Brothers bags and stuff like that, where I've got the rack on the back of. I didn't have a rack on the back of my mountain bike because it was set up for when I used to adventure race, and but I put the rack on there, and I've got some Rock Brother bags, and I can put the 891 and a 20 amp hour battery and anything I need for radio in that bag. And then I've got a bag on the front that I can put, snacks and food and stuff like that. Or I can put camping stuff in those bags and put my gear in my Gigaparts bag and just, go out riding on these trails and stuff and then stop and do the activation. But I'm wanting to move it toward, and thank you very much, Terry and Brian, for the super chats. And thanks myself for showing Terry it worked. But I'm wanting to move toward getting a setup to where I can do some of those. Like, for example, in Florida, you've got several trails, that you can ride forever. And I'd love to have some sort of antenna set up on there to where I could do some mobile. I don't have to log while I'm doing it. I can record myself and, just say the time at the beginning of the thing, and I can time it from there, or I can record the activation depending on what radio I'm using. But I want to, the trick is the HF antenna while moving, because most of those you're going to need some kind of ground plane. So
yeah, the thing that I've only speculated, I've never tried it. I know that K8MRD is he's a fan of the ATAS 120A, and I am too. I have one on my car, and I don't think what my point of bringing him up is he has shown is like, oh yeah, there's no grounding or nothing on this thing. Tunes just fine. And but he, in a video that I saw recently, it might have been something he released today, he said that 40 meters is a challenge sometimes, and that would be if he's not properly grounded or bonded. On a bicycle, I don't think you'll be able to tune an ATAS on 40 meters. I just don't think there's enough of anything under there without a radio.
I don't know that you'll have enough ground for
20
meter on an ATAS, because
20
I have one and I like it a lot. Works great on my vehicle because it's grounded to my vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But I have also used it in the yard, and I had to put out several radials to make a contact on 20 meters.
Well, the roof rack on my car, I don't recall if, I think you've seen it with the ATAS on it. The roof rack is not bonded. Well, it is now, but I don't think it was when you last saw it. And without a good bond on it, a bond strap on it, it'll tune 20 and 17, but not 15 or 12, and then it works on 10 and 6. And so maybe it would be just as barely adequate on a bicycle. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you, I mean, it depends on the area. Like if I'm riding like a trail that doesn't have a lot of low overhanging stuff, I've been thinking lately, because I've been playing a lot with the Cheligus antenna, and the radial system on it is very short. There's like 4 11-foot pieces, And I'm thinking I could roll them around like PVC and get, like 3-foot PVC pipes barely angling out from the sides of the bike, and maybe do it with it to get it. But it's a 17-foot whip. So then you got to worry about smacking everything going down a trail or something.
Right. So Dan, I don't know if you can see my my shared
Yep.
screen off
Yeah, hold on.
anywhere.
Yep,
So I
hold
had
on.
just put up a photo of a J pole. And so even this J pole, so this is basically a twin lead J pole for 2 meters on a, how long is that? I want to say it was like a 5-foot safety or fiberglass safety flag. I smacked a lot of trees with that thing. And, now on a groomed paved trail, there's probably plenty of overhead, but on this trail here, um, yeah, it took a lot of hits. And then if you've got a 17-foot anything, you're going to be hitting plenty, I think. So you need a spring, I guess.
Yeah, that's where the problem lies in the antenna, because that's just a lot of height above you, and even like on the paved trails, like the Van Fleet Trail is a nice paved trail they have down in Florida. You're still going to hit a lot of sections that's going to have a lot of trees overhanging it and stuff.
Now this presentation here, it's geared toward UHF VHF, so that's why the comment half wave is best. But what I'm showing you here is that I had extended the rack out, and in this case, I've got an NMO mount on here. But you could just as easily thread an SO239 through there, mount the ATAS. I mean, it's heavier; it's going to move around. And then you could probably even drill a couple spots on there to put radials to fan out from the bike when it's parked or something. But you could also put a 3/8 24. Is that what it is? 3/8 28. I forget the stud, the threading on it, but the 3/8 stud mount. You could put one of those on that as well, and then run it up and hit some trees.
Yeah, for ham sticks or something like that. Yeah.
Cam sticks. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Dan, how tall is that little MFJ that we have when it's extended?
Still pretty tall. I mean, you'd still be smacking some overhanging bushes and stuff like that, but not nearly as tall as, say, like a 20-meter ham stick or something like that, I would think.
Anyway, I didn't mean to hijack your presentation. You go ahead, but
That's all right. I'm just kind of feeling out how we go here. I didn't know if you wanted to go through the numbers or if I'll just show you things that you're talking to.
I mean, I'd like to do some mobile HF while on the bike, but even the UHF VHF is interesting to me because I can go into a place like DC and be hitting parks, and there's a lot of those parks that you can ride and stuff around, and you can get a lot of 2-meter contacts, and then if you don't get enough, you just throw up an antenna and do HF there.
Yeah. Well, let me show you some of the stuff. I'll skip over some of the slides where I basically am given the background because I already did. So obviously this is a bicycle mobile presentation, and I think your viewers can read that all right. It says a rough copy, old man. You were picket fencing pretty bad on that last transmission. This is probably a 30 to 40-year-old comic, so that call sign has been reissued long ago. But I had, if I were to show some of my older bicycle mobile setups, there is this one. Here's my. Is my mouse on your screen there?
Yep.
So I've got the bicycle rack there, and this is back then you couldn't get a plastic ammo can. So this is a steel ammo can with a lead acid battery in it and a 30 watt amplifier up under here. And then I had my radios up here. On this one here, you can see this, I had switched from that J pole to a half wave antenna with some safety tape on there. And so that was what I rode for probably a year. Actually, I rode this on a tour actually from North Miami to Fort Eustis, Virginia. It was 1,100 miles. And everybody else that I was riding with, we were all racing buddies, and we were taking bets on when I was going. They were taking bets on when I was going to peel the extra weight off, because this bike weighed about 50 pounds, and they were all riding their carbon bikes and stuff. So it was kind of fun. So that was, I will say that this was my second bicycle mobile setup. The first one, I kept cracking wheels. It was my racing bike, so I kept cracking wheels. And so I got this mountain bike to throw my bicycle mobile setup on.
Yeah, this was definitely back before the lithium batteries were remotely
yes.
popular. So you're in lead
Yes.
acid territory there. That's a lot of weight.
I might have even, but at one point that ammo can had 2 batteries in it, and so it was a 63-pound bike with the second battery in it.
Wow.
Let's see, and then this was the follow-up, so I did slim it down a little bit. I had switched to instead of the amplifier, I had two 6-volt batteries back in here, and same half-wave antenna, and then my HT up here on the front with the switches. And so what these switches let me do is they switch the batteries between parallel and series, so I could go to I did have an amplifier in here somewhere, because the purpose of the switches was so that I could power the 12-volt amplifier. This HT would not accept 12 volts, so I had to run it on 6. And there's my push to talk switch here on the handlebar. And anything else interesting in this picture? There's the HT itself. The max input for it was 11 volts. And when I bought it, I didn't know I was going to do it on a bicycle. And so had I realized that I was going to want to run it off of a battery, I wouldn't have bought it. I had an adapter for it that would step that voltage down to 9.6 volts, but adapters consume power too. And so that was when I switched to the 6-volt battery. That way there was no conversion losses or anything. So I could get out 3 watts on 6 volts, and then the amplifier would then just up that to 30 watts. And
before I get to a couple questions here in the chat, I got to say that I'm impressed that what you mount to your handlebars stays on your handlebars, because every time I have ever tried to mount anything to handlebars, it always shakes loose. I don't care how tight that I make it.
Wait till you see what I get up there next. Now, I attribute some of my success to the suspension on the bike.
Right.
Let's see.
There's some talk in the chat real fast about 2 meters and antenna lengths.
Yes, I was just noticing that. Why wouldn't everyone want a quarter wave? Well, the quarter wave, what did I click here? The quarter wave requires a ground plane, where half wave does not. It works better with a ground plane, but it will work without one. And so you don't have to worry about the detuning or anything, because I mean, if you just look at this mount right here, there's nothing there. And so a quarter wave it won't tune sitting there, and neither will a 5/8. And so this particular antenna, back in these days, dual band HTs were not common. And so we were all working on 2 meters. And if you were working with this club that I was working with, they wanted to standardize all the bikes. And so this is a Larson. People who know 2-meter antennas have heard of the Larson NMO 150. Well, this one, and that's a 5/8 wave. This one is called the NMO 150HW. So it's a half wave antenna and single band. And so that was what I went with based off of some articles that I read at the time. And now, even today, the Bicycle Mobile Hams of America.org. So it's bmha.org, I think. And they've got a Facebook presence, or no, Groups.io presence. They still mostly agree that half wave is best. And of course, all bets are off if you're on HF, because even in a car, HF is a compromise. On a bicycle, it's a big compromise.
Right.
Let's see, what do I got next here? So that's this bike here. I quit riding it probably in 2009. And then I went to, these are just other bikes that I had been riding, and now I have this one. And so this is it was marketed at the time as a utility bike or a city bike. And so this is what I had on my most recent tour. And so this is it with, I will say, the first bicycle mobile setup that I tried out on this bike. And so I decided that I wanted to try full power, and I'll explain that in a minute, because I know some of you are already thinking you need to type up about the RF safety thing, and I'll address that in a minute. But I'm doing like a proof of concept here. And so, Dan, you can see the big handlebar bag on the front.
Yeah.
And that handlebar bag, I don't have a picture in the slideshow that shows how it connects. Well, I guess I got one that's kind of close, but the way it clamps to the bar, it will support 9 pounds. And so that's a lot of weight on a handlebar swinging around up there like that. And so this here is how the front of it looks. And so this is basically the same radio that I have in my mobile setup. I have my HT here. Again, this is all just proof of concept. I didn't use these both at the same time because I've only got one antenna on the bike. And this is basically this mount right here. It's just a bent piece of aluminum that's then slid into a pocket, and it rides there. The chassis for the radio, you can see I'm using the mobile mounting bracket here. And then you may or may not remember that I really like Amazing Goop. It's an adhesive. And so that is gooped to this piece of plastic here so that I have a nice air channel underneath the radio so that it can breathe. And so that way, even if I put gloves and things on top in the bag, this fan will go, and then the vents underneath will still allow the radio to breathe. And then this here, this shows the mounting brackets for the handlebar bag. And so it clamps with some really good clamps onto the handlebars. And then the bag is removable. I've got 2 different size bags that I put on here. And I've got another set of clamps on another bicycle so I can move everything back and forth very easily.
Just a bag on, just a tote bag on front like that would be perfect, James.
Yes. And you can see this, the radio fits in there perfectly. I don't have a picture of it showing how much space is available, but right about there is where the edge is. And then I have 90-degree elbows to direct the feed lines up and out. The 891, I think, would fit if you were to look to squeeze it in there. I mean, or you could either squeeze it in there and operate it, or you can transport it in there, and it would certainly transport in there.
If you had an 817 or an 818, you could really make good use of that space too, because you could put it vertical and use the front antenna port, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and I have another idea too that you might like. Let's see. I'll get to that idea here in just a second. This is the back rack, and so Bioenno battery in the back. I don't really use that so much anymore because I downsize, and I'll explain that in a minute. But there's my power poles. I'm not a big power pole guy in my car. I don't have hardly any. I think I have one, and the rest of it's all terminal lugs. But on the bike, power poles are awesome. And it didn't take long. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but on bicycles and touring, an ounce is a pound, especially after a while. So I was really out of shape on this tour. I hadn't ridden in years, much less toted around extra weight. And so I call this picture overweight and undertrained. So you can see the weight add-ups there to show you how much everything weighed. And it didn't take me long before I said, all right, now that I'm past this point where I feel like I might need 30 or 50 watts, let me peel it off and we'll back off to just 5 watts. Because then I was in an area where 5 watts was plenty. So then I switched to this setup. And so in the front bag here, on the trip anyway, there wasn't anything in here but, say, gloves and headgear and just jackets and things like that. The amplifiers and everything, or not the amplifier, but the ID 5100 was removed and in the support vehicle. And so I was just carrying this HT here. And just to give you an idea where I was in the National Quiet Zone. I don't know if you're familiar with that, James, but there's no cell coverage out there at all. So the radio was great for out there. And here's where I'm getting to the idea of what maybe you can use as a radio, because you said the 818, 817, but this is how everything is attached to the bike. So I've got these quad locks, and I don't remember their website. I wasn't ready to endorse them or anything, but my daughter turned me on to these. And so this one attaches right to the threadless headset. And then this one is a universal mount that'll just mount to anything with a little bit of a curve to it. And in the case of my HT, I just got the universal two-sided tape mount and stuck it right to the back where the battery is. Now, this is an ICOM radio, and the IC 705 and I think the 905 use the same battery. And so I could use this very same battery and quad lock to mount one of those QRP rigs to the handlebar and transport it that way. And I think if I remember right, James, you're a Yaesu guy. And so that FT1X or FTX1D, I've got my eyes on that thing as a contest rig, but that would be a great fit on a bicycle too, if you're going to run some QRP.
Yeah, I've actually got that one reserved. So
Do
yeah,
you?
I'm very familiar with the quiet zone. I've activated all in that area. And
Okay.
so for my bike road, because the trail that he's talking about, he done support on, is the actual trail that I will be doing my bike road up here. It is the Greenbrier Trail.
Yes,
And
yes.
I ain't going to say too much. You're probably not going to be able to see it here because of my screen. But this right here, I've been testing a lot. And I'm actually dropping a video on it tomorrow at 4 o'clock. But that's going to be the cure to my problem for spotting on POTA when I have no signal. So
What
yeah,
what was that? Are you
it,
open to say?
it is watch me say it wrong. Zolio. It's a satellite texter,
Oh, okay.
and it's been working very well. I had a little issue the first day, but that's the only time I've not got out. So basically, I can just text anybody I want and tell them to spot me.
Okay.
And,
Well,
it's been a
moving
game changer.
on. Yeah, yeah. After that, I've got the antenna stuff. So I've already talked about antennas, but then remember I said that I removed the ID 5100 from the bike because it was just too heavy and unnecessary. And I started paying attention to RF safety. So I got my hands on one of the very last Mirage amplifiers, and that just is way smaller than the body of the FT or of the ID 5100. And that's how that fits. So now I have a smaller battery. So I took the larger battery away from the back of the bike, put the smaller one up in here. You can see some power pole splitters and stuff, and then the amplifier in here. And the amplifier, well, let me just show you this. That's what its advertised performance is. And so my thought is if I need an amplifier, then I would increase the watts in to maybe work with 20 to 30 watts. Then here's what actually happens. And so it's close. I wish I could get 18 watts. That'd be kind of perfect. But when I'm inputting a half a watt, I'm getting 25 out. I'm not complaining. It's just not as precise as I had hoped it would be, and that's okay. But the problem here with I would never do 50 watts, and even 30 watts isn't terribly cool because later it didn't take me long to figure this out at all, especially now that I'm a little more back here. When this picture was taken, I wasn't thinking about RF safety. It wasn't, I mean, it was a thing, but the apps were not commonplace like they are now. And now you can just go right to ARRL's website and see that 50 watts shot as it is in this picture would just be insane. Because the antenna is just right there by my hips, amongst other things. And so when you do the RF safety measurement on here, then it looks like, what do I have here? 8 watts is max safe. If I had to use more, I would use more. And if I really needed 50 watts, and I would just get off the bike and stand in front of the bike, key up. And if it was an emergency, then I would use full power, but I would be standing in front of the bike where I'm 3 or 4 feet away from the antenna instead of right on top of it. So that's how I address the RF safety issue.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you need to pay more attention to up in the VHF, UHF ranges for sure. The higher
specifically 2 meters, and even
Yeah.
the 222 band. Those are dangerous wavelengths for people. 6 meters less so, and
no doubt.
432 less so as well.
Yeah,
But right there in the middle, that's where it gets you.
When you're talking about HF, there's really, I mean, when you start getting 20 meters, 40 meters kind of area, it's you can almost be on top of your antenna at 100 watts and still be within a safe distance. But
Oh yeah. You can, I did a RF exposure thing for my car, so that if anybody ever asked me to see them, I've got it
yeah,
all in the car, and you can practically give that scorpion antenna a hug while you're transmitting 100 watts, and it's not going to hurt you.
check
Misha,
out.
Misha,
Yeah,
is this antenna you're talking about? Is that for HF or UHF? And I don't
if
know
an
about being on top of my HF antenna, Dan, but I've definitely been underneath it before. I've had it going right over my head.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
normally when I activate with the Eagle One, it's on the trailer hitch mount, and I got the tailgate down, and I'm probably standing a foot away from it. And from my exposure calculations that I've done, I mean, I'm fine as long as I'm not literally hugging the thing, and even then, it's minuscule.
but that Eagle One, the fiberglass mast is not a radiating element, is it?
No,
Okay.
no,
So,
just
really quick there, Misha, if the National Park Service staffer did say something to you about transmitting on your radio, you should have probably asked to speak to a supervisor, because that is not the case for HF radio and stuff like that. They have to yield to us. I've talked to them exclusively about that because I activate in that area a lot.
Yeah, I don't think the um, Green Bay cares until you're reaching the gigahertz
yeah,
range.
Yeah. Now,
So
if you got a microwave 6 miles down the road that's just throwing something weird out, they're gonna come to your house and they're gonna take your microwave.
oh
But
yeah.
yeah. The quiet zones mainly apply to very very high frequencies like gigahertz and above, because they do
Yeah,
a lot of
they control all of the Wi-Fi routers and stuff up there too. So
because it
if there
interferes
is
with
an
radio
offending,
astronomy and stuff like that. So,
yeah, if there's an offending Wi-Fi router in somebody's personal house, it'll get shut off. They can remote it.
and here's a thought too. I think PP Man's in the chat. If you are PP Man, how tall is the AX1 antenna?
and while PP Man is answering that, PP Man did do an RF exposure as well, and he can basically put his antenna in his mouth and he's still good to go. So because he is QRP.
Well, and what I did, if you're curious, people who are watching, is this here here's my 2 meter page here, and all I did was just upped the power 1 watt at a time. The distance, where's the compliance distance? Oh, I upped the power 1 watt at a time until I reached my compliance distance, which 16 inches is 1.33 feet. And then once it exceeded that, then I backed off a watt, and okay, here's my quote unquote safe zone. And somebody asked me, well, why don't you put the antenna up on the front of the bike? Well, up there, it's closer to my head.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather have it back there near my rear end. It's nice and meaty instead of my head, which has important stuff in it.
Well, that, depending on your local coverage too of repeaters or APRS digipeaters or what have you on 2 meters, 8 watts is going to get you out there.
Oh yeah. And the repeater coverage on the Greenbrier Trail, for example, is really good. I didn't need an amplifier for anything out there.
So Robbie just said that the AX1 is about 5 feet max. That is something that I might consider, is putting my Elecraft in a bag, up near my handlebars. I have a map board, kind of like what you see people using the lap boards. But when I used to do adventure racing, I had a map board that would hold maps and stuff. I could glue a piece of metal to that and put my CW key on that, and I could probably run the AX1 straight up 5 feet and do CW while I was doing it, I think.
Yeah. Just use the frame of the bike as your counterpoise if you had to.
Well, I could that no longer than that counterpoise is. I
Yeah.
could just twirl it around all the way back. I could run a pipe and a plastic pipe along the bike all the way back, and I think I could get by with that.
This is the microphone I'm using. Prime has a line of Patriot microphones, and so the 1430 is specifically for ICOM because it's got the active mic in it. But you just put in what radio you want to hook it up to, and they've got the adapters and stuff. And then here you can see I'm wearing this waterproof. They call it a tactical push to talk, but I can clip it there. I could clip it to the handlebar, and that's my push to talk. So I could operate in the rain if I wanted to. That's pretty much what I have as far as photographs of the bike and everything. I mean, the rest of it's that was just something I showed to the club to say, yep, and here's my other bike. And so I could even put all of this on my carbon fiber bike if I wanted to. I just don't have a need to.
Yeah. So your bike there, are they dual purpose bikes? Because they look like road bikes.
This one is a road bike. It's not quite a racing bike. This one's called a Trek Damani. And so it has a more upright riding position, and I have a high rise stem on it because my hips, I like to sit up a little bit, and but it's light. If I didn't have the handlebar bag and other stuff on there, I want to say that without any racks or bags or anything, it probably weighs about 19 pounds, and it's a 58 centimeter frame, so it's not a small bike.
All right. Okay, so you did support for that Greenbrier race, and of course, racing is a lot different than roving. But
it was a tour, and so
okay.
And some of the people that in my club here in Williamsburg, they knew that I was doing this, and we know somebody out there, and so this ham out there who lives out there in the quiet zone, he was kind of my on-call guy. But they were really surprised that I never even turned the radio. Well, I turned the radio on just to show the other riders that I had it and what it was there for, because they asked me, what is all this stuff? And so I showed it to them, but not once did I call and talk to anybody on the repeater. My thought was that, well, first, if I'm with customers, I consider it rude to talk on the radio. So I always had a customer with me because I was the sweep. So I was always bringing up the rear and had somebody with me. But my goal was that if I had a problem, I'm very certain, even if it was a very unfriendly group, which they're not, they're very friendly out there, but even if it was an unfriendly group, I think if I said, this is KE4 WMF with a medical emergency, can somebody assist me? I think somebody would assist me.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that was my goal.
Right. Absolutely. But the terrain wise and stuff like that, you guys were a tour. How you did it? You did it in 1 day, 2 days? How long did it take?
We spread it out to 3 days. These groups, our average customer, you got to think about the type of people who go on bicycle tours. They're usually people who don't have to be to work, and so they have both the time and the money to do it because these are fully supported tours. And so the average bicycle touring customer is in their late 60s, early 70s. And so these are not people who want to hammer out 100 miles in a day. And so we did it in 3 days and had things that we were doing in the evenings as far as touring the local stuff out there or going to a winery or whatever. These are all things that the touring company owner does. She's a queen at Plan B and touring and all that other stuff. I'm just the guy that turns wrenches and makes the bikes go and get them where they got to be. So she's the brains behind all of that stuff.
So you guys were somewhere around 30 miles a day?
That sounds about right. The tour, yeah, now that I think about it, that trail is 78 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So I think day one was 25 miles and day two was, I want to say we did something lopsided, like 42. And then the last day was whatever's left after that. So it was like 20 miles or something like that.
Got some good info from Brian here. Whiskey One Whiskey Charlie sent me that link that I just dropped into the chat, James, if you want to open that up and save it in your browser. By Whiskey Bravo 3 Golf Charlie Kilo QRP Amateur Radio. He has a nice little blog here. He does bike portable with the AX1, and that's exactly what we were just talking about. Maybe looking into, and he has how he does it on his little blog here, the mount that he uses, and everything else.
Good deal. Let me click on that, and I've got it up here on another screen. There we go. It'll give me something to look at. So I'm assuming you guys stayed at places you all got with people, or did you guys camp?
No camping. That's another thing that most of our customers don't do is we do hotel tours. And so Day one, we stayed in the repeaters right there in that town too, and I just can't think of the name of it. But there's a town that's so we started in Cass. So that's another thing we did is we went in the direction that was predominantly downhill, although it wasn't entirely downhill. So we started in Cass, and then we stopped in whatever town is 25 miles from there, and then the next day we went to another town that's say 40 miles from that, but then we shuttled the riders to Lewisburg. So we spent 2 or 3 nights in Lewisburg. And so Lewisburg was just our operating hub. And then we would take the bikes back to where they needed to go to pick up where they left off the previous day.
Okay, so you guys were shuttling to Lewisburg to stay.
Yes, except for the first night. The first night we stayed in, and I just can't think of the name of that town, but what I do know about that town is it's the only place out there that's got cell phone coverage in the National Quiet Zone. So it's like a little oasis. So that's where the gas and the cell phones and the restaurants are.
Okay, so the day that you guys did 40 miles, what kind of time frame did it take your group to do that?
Marlington.
Yeah, Marlington. That's a little close.
Yes.
That's a little close for me to stay.
And there's no G in Marlington, so they've got signs that say that. I don't know that it actually was a full 40 miles. So 25, 20. So that's 60. Gosh, maybe it was only 20 miles the second day as well. But the thing is we had, I want to say 17 riders, and sometimes you get some really competitive types that want to ride ahead and they finish quickly, and they are quickly disappointed because the hotel rooms are never ready that fast, and so you just racing to the end to wait for the hotel room to be ready or for your luggage to show up because the luggage is still in a support vehicle. And then we had somebody with us who she wanted to take pictures of everything, and that's cool. That's what they're on the tour for. But when you're riding in the back, especially since I was so far out of shape, it was hard for me to be out on the trail for so long. So we would start, I want to say by 9 or 10, because we got off to late starts because we were waiting for the cold weather for the weather to warm up because it was cold up there in the mountains. And then probably by 4 to 5, we were wrapping up. And this is when the days were still a little longer. It's before the time changes. So sunset wasn't until 6:30 or 7. But around 5 o'clock, we were starting to get a little nervous because in the mountains, you're starting to get shade and cold areas.
So 9 to 5, 8 hours basically was about an average day. I'm
Yes.
I'm asking to have reason behind this because the person taking the pictures, that's fine for me because I'm stopping and activating 5 different times along this trail, and I'm curious about the time frames that I'm going to be looking at for.
Well, and
because 3 days is what I'm probably thinking of looking at doing.
Yeah, you'll be able to do it easily in 3 days. Because when you're by yourself, well, see, and the other thing too is we didn't just we had designated rest stops, so we would have places where the vehicle would meet us on the trail, and we'd make sandwiches or whatever, or we'd have snacks, or we would visit a local restaurant. Because at that point, that was right after Helene had come through and just kind of wasted Was it Marlington? Oh no, that was a week later. We were in a different area. Damascus, Virginia, just got devastated, and we wanted to go into there and put some money into the community. So we had lunch there, but that's a different story. That's not on Greenbrier. So Greenbrier, we were on the Greenbrier Trail because our previously planned tour had been washed away by Helene, and so we went on the Greenbrier Trail. But we're doing restaurants or rest stops, and these aren't just quick. Gosh, we even stopped someplace and had cheese and wine and crackers and stuff someplace out there. It was a picnic table, and so these are not speedy tours. Even the speedy riders, they do wind up having to wait because the slower riders, they're going to take pictures, they're going to have wine and take the rest stops, and so you doing an activation, it'll easily work in 3 days.
Unfortunately, Reed, Droop Mountain State Park is not part of that tunnel. I wish it was, because I was looking to find another park to get in there, and Droop Mountain I'd have to leave the trail and go some back roads and stuff. And riding a bike in that part of the woods on back roads doesn't appease to me very well.
Yeah. Yeah, there were 2 tunnels on the Greenbrier Trail. I thought one of them was called Droop Mountain, but I probably have that mixed up.
It is Droop Mountain Tunnel. I'm just
okay.
saying the state park is away from the trail.
Oh, the whole trail is not considered an entity in itself?
The trail is an entity, and then you guys cross through the Calvin Price forest. You cross through Watauga. You probably remember Watauga
Yeah.
State Park.
Did we touch Monongahela, or was that above us, above Cass?
There is another state forest in through there that you hit too. Reed will probably tell me because I'm drawing a blank right at the moment.
So have you ridden the Greenbrier Trail?
And then I have not rode it. I have activated it, but I have not rode it yet.
There is one point in particular that it's the only climb of significance in the whole trail. And it was surprising to me because I had to get in the granny gear and everything to get up this thing. And apparently it's that way because of a landslide. So the mountain basically fell over or something. And so now there's this one steep part, but that would probably be a great place to set up a radio because it's a nice high spot.
Okay. And then Cass itself is a park.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I've activated it, Cass. Back in the days of the radar award, I got a cheetah award out there in Cass, Watauga. Couldn't get in the Calvin Price because there's no vehicular access, but I did like 5 parks out that way.
So, but I think it'll be fun. And then I'm going to do some more. Hopefully I'm able to take my bike with me when I go to Florida. Hopefully it'll go with me, and that way I can do some don't be laughing, Dan. I can take a bike on a train too.
What kind of bike do you have anywhere? Is it road, trail? What do you got?
Well, mine is trail.
With suspension?
Yes.
Full suspension or just front?
Just front.
Okay. See, and that's and the reason I ask is because that's another reason why I would favor a handlebar bag and a front load, is because then it's suspended.
Right. Yeah. I and back when I used to adventure race, I've done 68 miles in a day. And that was after doing the kayak portion of the race and the running portion of the, but that's been a while. So I'm out of shape now too. So
it's amazing how fast we fall, because it wasn't that long ago that I was doing randonneuring, and so my longest single day ride was 254 miles, and now, gosh, even doing 25 is killing me.
Yeah,
you go from in shape to ham bod in no time at all.
That's like you can spend 4 years in a gym building this perfect body, and then you spend 4 weeks out of the gym and it's gone.
Well, I mean, even when I was doing the rando stuff, I was an overweight cyclist, but I was in shape and could push the bike, and I had a grind that I could get into and just go and not get terribly tired. But you get out of shape if you stay off the bike for even a month, and you feel it when you come back. And now I've been off for years, and yeah, the Greenbrier Trail was killing me on day 1. And day 2, I felt a little better, and day 3, better still. But except for my neck was killing me, because it takes a while to get that neck built back up.
Yeah, I mean, down in Florida, I've got the Van Fleet Trail, which is a nice trail that they got down there. I've got the Florida Trail. There's several trails I could do down there on a bike as well. And then there's always my birthday activation, which is a different story. My birthday this year might be the one that puts me in the hospital. So back when I used to be hardcore into mountain biking, there was a place called Alfaya State Park, which is known for its mountain bike trails because they've got some really cool features in there. And I always wanted to go there back when I was in shape and, good on my bike. Never got to. Since I've been doing ham radio every year on my birthday, I'm in Florida, I go to Alfaya State Park and activate that park. So this year I'm going to activate it and then probably get to ride those trails for the first time. So wish me luck on that one.
All right.
Oh,
I'll tell you what you got to watch out for, James, is I would be shocked if it happens, but it would be a really cool surprise as if that new FT-X1D is compatible with the ATAS. Holy cow, I would totally want to try it out on the bike just to see if it will tune and what it does.
That would be really cool. That would definitely be really cool. So I'm still uh, crossing my fingers on the release price, because you reserved this radio and you're like, how much is it? They're like, I don't know.
It didn't dawn on me until recently that looks like it's going to be a direct competitor with the IC705,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is
Oh,
selling
yeah.
for around $1,200. So maybe it would be around the same.
I'm assuming it's going to be in that range. That's right. Don't forget to hit that like button before you go, guys. Well, you know what? We are at the top of the hour. Thank you very much for reminding me of that. Time always flies when we have Scott, because he's an interesting cat and does some really cool stuff. And if you've never heard him tell his story about NCIS, you should go back and watch our stream, because it's
That is-
awesome.
Oh gosh, I had
that's
somebody
absolutely
really
true.
offended by that story because they thought I was making fun of NCIS, and I wasn't.
No.
I was laughing at the situation, the ridiculousness of it.
It's one of the greatest stories ever.
Yeah, it's definitely great. But Scott, what do you got coming up for yourself, bud?
You know, I'm sharing a picture with you off screen here, but that picture there, it's a Photoshop, but it's a hint of what's to come, and that is not that I'm going to the moon, but here pretty soon, my car will be crossing a milestone. The average distance from Earth to the moon is 238,855 miles, and I think I will be there next month. And so
Nice.
I've got some lunar photos that I will share just for fun. My car on the surface, and yeah, just silly things that I'm doing for fun.
See, you actually scared me there for a second. You showed that picture, and I was thinking you knew about a new POTA part that was getting dropped at the moon, and you was going to try to know it. And I
Oh.
literally was texting Eon, telling him I need a flight to the moon tonight.
I don't know.
That's- I'm going to make that part of the narrative of the picture when I share it on Instagram. Is a new POTA activation, because I've photoshopped a picture of my car sitting next to the lunar lander. So that's what I'm gonna share.
It's really funny because you know me, I'm a competitive person, and I've always been that way. Just when I used to geocache, when a new cache would come out, there was always a thing. The first person would sign FTF, first to find, and I always wanted to get those. And that's just the other night, I found out that a new Kentucky park was hitting. I didn't tell nobody where I was going the next morning. I was like, you guys just might want to watch me tomorrow. And Brian actually told me, said, man, you were there before I got out of bed.
Well, and I guess the other thing that I got going on, I have not, I still don't have 222 single sideband in the car. I mean, I'd like to get that next year. I don't know if I will. And then CB, not that I'm a big CBer, but hey, I've got room for it. And so CB in the car, and I do have 222 FM. So I just haven't shared it on the channel. So I need to make a what did I call it? KE4WMF mobile 2025 version. So I'll do an update to the channel to show here's what's on the car now. And it hasn't changed drastically, but just rearranged some things and done some battery testing and just little things.
Maybe that's what I'll call next year. Ham Radio Adventure Guy 0.25 for 2025. Because I'm gonna change some things up next year too, but it's only going to be for the better.
Well, that question that just came up about how do I have any room left in the car, and oddly enough, another one of the reasons why I haven't been activating so much is because I cleared out the passenger seat a little while back so that my wife could go someplace with me, and I just didn't put the desk back in the car, and so it's almost a regular car now, except for if you're standing outside of it, then it's not. But from inside the car, it's almost normal.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Brian, because I've actually sat in his driver's seat, and there's not, you don't think there's a lot of room, but he has room to put one or two more remote heads up there.
Yeah. The CB, the one I chose was it's an all-in microphone set, and the body of it is tucked up behind the speakers that are by my knee, so you can't even see the body.
Yeah.
And then the 222 rig, it's not installed yet, but it'll go down where the 900 megahertz radio is. And so it could be a little bit of a shin scraper. We'll see how that works. But then on the passenger side where my wife sits, she still has plenty of room.
If you've not seen his car in person, videos don't do it justice. You need to go to a show where he's got his car set up in person, especially if he's got his little trailer with him. I still don't even know, his trailer's so small. I don't even know how he sleeps in it.
Oh yes,
but he does. So you should check.
Yeah, I can't say I do. That makes it sound habitual, but I have. And when you sat in my car, I don't remember if I said it to you or not, but would you agree that that is a ham station that you don't sit at it, you wear it?
You do. You strap it on. That's what it feels like when you get in. I mean, you're surrounded by everything you need is within reach. I mean,
yep.
Even as far as the rotor, the laptop, everything you need is there, and the layout of it makes sense. I'm not a big VHF, UHF guy, but the flow of the cockpit, so to speak, made sense to me.
And if we had shut the door for you that day, then the microphones would have been right by your thigh. They're just right there. You barely have to reach for them.
And the most important feature the car has, it has a King's refrigerator in it full of King's Dr. Pepper. And every time I walk by it, Scott's handing me a new one. And that's the greatest feature ever, guys.
You're going to have to supply your own in Hamcation this year.
I know, man. He's not coming this year. Dan, you're going to get somebody on this. Somebody's going to have to walk around with Dr. Pepper for me.
For the last 2 years, Scott has parked in the same spot. And I think I'm going to take one of those sad pictures from that spot with a sign that says, "I wish Scott was here holding a Dr. Pepper."
There we go. There we go. I don't know if Tracy's in here with us tonight, but I'll throw her under the bus. She's got a camper. We'll get her to bring you some Dr. Pepper.
There you go.
You know what? It is getting about time for Tracy to start her trip to Florida, because she's normally what she leave about January the 1st. She leaves early.
Here pretty soon. She'll probably be hitting the road.
Because I know, because it starts every time I'm in a park to park.
Yeah.
And she's like a vivid park to park hunter for me. Every time I get to for like a month before I even get, she's there she is.
We're on a coffee and radio net almost every morning at 9 o'clock. If you ever want to join us, we do have Echolink on that repeater, and if she's listening now, she won't be surprised. But if she's not listening, then you could surprise her. Oh, there she is. So you're not going to be able to surprise her. But yeah, if you were to join us, it'd be kind of cool for us anyway, who know you. Everybody else would be like, "Who? James who?" But yeah. So she didn't. I didn't notice if she said whether or not she would have Dr. Pepper. I just saw January 13th. But anyway, what I was going to say is we talk on the net almost every morning. So she's been talking about her. She calls it Travels with Tracy, and so her call sign ending with RVR. She lives right on the Rappahannock River, and so RVR is for river. But when she starts her RV trips, then RVR stands for RVer.
Yeah, it's always great because she's at it, like she'll be staying at a park, and she may stay there 3 or 4 days, and I will just rack up in the hunts for that park, because every time if I go to 5 parks and do 2 different bands, I'm getting 10 contacts from that park that day. And sometimes her husband's coming in and getting me too, or he'll get me on CW and stuff. And so it multiplies it even more. So yes, blame Scott, Tracy. Blame Scott. He's not bringing the King's refrigerator to him. All right, Dan, what you got coming up?
Not a lot. Very informative hour, Scott. Always a pleasure, man. You are welcome back anytime. Always appreciative of you showing up. I did drop links in the chat, guys, to his YouTube channel and his website. Go over and check them both out. And other than that, James, take us to the after chat.
Yeah, we've been talking, not really talking. He's messaged me several times when I was in Canada and had no time to do anything. And I've been planning this stream since back in Canada, and I've been wanting to talk to him about the Greenbrier Trail and stuff. So I finally got off my butt and reached out to him, And he's like, "Oh, I can do it this Wednesday," because I had this Wednesday and I had January. So he said he can do either one. So we stuck him on this Wednesday.
I had practically forgotten about it, and so your text message was a nice surprise.
But all right, guys, we are getting ready to hand over to After Chat. After Chat is a Patreon benefit. If you want to try out Patreon, you can go over there and try it for free for 7 days. But the kicker is you must message me or Dan so we can give you those Discord benefits to see the After Chat and stuff like that. Make sure and do it. I say this every single show, and every single week somebody signs up for free membership and does not message us and does not come and chat. And therefore they don't become a Patreon because they never see none of the benefits. So, or you could just go ahead and pay now, and I'll automatically see it, and I'll get you the benefits right off the bat. That's the kicker for that. But thank you very much, Scott. We really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for the super chats tonight, and don't forget that video drop on this fiddle booger tomorrow. It's not going to show up now. Thank you for not having OBS. But anyway, we'll catch everybody in After Chat 73.
See you guys.
Take care.